Welcome back to the SDW podcast, the official deep dive into all the hard-hitting action, drama, and chaos that makes Stone Dog Wrestling the best show in the business. I'm Carly Cross, here to kick things off before we hand it over to Greg and Sandy for their expert analysis and plenty of speculation about what's next for SDW. Last week's Friday Night Lightning was absolutely insane. From Rust Russell and Clark Thunder's controversial Cruiserweight #1 contendership match to the Maniacs dethroning Absolution for the World Tag Team titles. And let's not forget the brutal Women's World Championship 2/3 Falls cage match between Britt Baker and Banshee. There's so much to break down. Of course, we also saw the shocking return of Aaron A. Sweet, now representing the New York State Athletic Commission, keeping Tony Khan in check. Though TK had plenty to say to CM Punk before throwing him to the Wolves in a handicap match. Greg, Sandy, it's over to you. Take us through the chaos of last week's Friday Night Lightning.
Welcome to your deep dive into SDW Friday Night Lightning.
Yeah.
This week's show was a whirlwind.
A whirlwind.
And we've got your stack of sources ready to break it all down, all the action, and what it means for the future of SDW.
Absolutely. We're not just recapping.
Right.
We are analyzing the matches, the storylines, and the ripple effects, potential ripple effects of all of this.
Right. So let's jump right in. Let's start with the Cruiserweight contendership match. Now, you've got to admit, seeing Russell going for a Cruiserweight title shot is
respected.
Unexpected, to say the least.
It is, especially considering his, shall we say, unique physique.
Yeah.
But that's where the brilliance of his manager, Cruz Diaz, comes in. He's found a way to exploit the rules, bend the rules without breaking them.
Right.
And it really showcases how managers can wield power in SDW.
It's like Diaz is playing 4D chess while everyone else is playing checkers.
Yeah.
And facing Russell, we have Clark Thunder. And remember, he just recently turned his back on his tag team partner, Dizzy, and the rest of the good guys. Turned into quite the villain.
Yeah, his heel turn has definitely been one of the most talked about moments in recent SDW history. And this match against Russell was a classic clash of styles. You had Thunder's speed and agility versus Russell's raw power.
Yeah, and neither man could get a clean win. The match ended in a double countout. Feels like this rivalry is just getting started, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. This unresolved tension is a perfect example of how SDW keeps fans on the edge of their seats, you know? It makes you wonder, is this a sign of things to come? Are we going to see more matches where the lines between good and bad are blurred?
And how will this affect the Cruiserweight division as a whole? I mean, usually it's all about high-flying action, but Russell brings a whole different kind of energy.
It's definitely a shakeup. And it could lead to some really interesting matchups down the line. Think about it. If Russell actually manages to win the Cruiserweight title, it would completely change the landscape of the division.
It would be a huge shift. But speaking of shakeups, we've got to talk about the return of Aaron A. Sweet.
Yes.
He came back with a vengeance, calling out Tony Khan directly and accusing him of sabotaging his show.
This is more than just backstage drama, though. This has the potential to really impact SDW on a larger scale, especially with the New York State Athletic Commission, the NYSAC getting involved.
Yeah.
For those who aren't familiar, the NYSAC oversees professional wrestling in New York, and they have the authority to impose fines, sanctions, even revoke licenses.
So this is serious business. And to make things even more volatile, CM Punk is caught in the middle of all this.
Oh, yeah.
Feuding with Khan while also being bound by the NYSAC rulings.
Yeah. It's a powder keg.
A powder keg.
Situation. And honestly, I'm not sure what's going to happen next, but the power struggle between Sweet, Khan, and Punk is definitely something to keep a close eye on.
Definitely. Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about the brutal TV title match between Outlaw X and Reaper. These are two SDW veterans who always put on a great show.
Epps' journey to this point has been incredible, overcoming so many obstacles, improving himself time and again. But Reaper's determination to reclaim the TV title was evident throughout the match.
He was relentless. Those 3 Irish curse backbreakers in a row were just brutal. And Epps had no answer for that kind of power.
It was a decisive win for Rupa. But it also begs the question, what's next for Epps? He's clearly a talented competitor, but this loss could force him to reevaluate his path in SDW.
Yeah, you're right. It's a crossroads for him.
Yeah.
But speaking of rising stars, Blue Monica is back in the title picture after a dominant qualifying match against Blaze. That near robotic flip into a dropkick after recovering from a clothesline was just incredible.
Monica's unique blend of power and agility was on full display. And that impactful Alabama slammer to finish the match secured her spot at Deck the Halls. It looks like she is on a mission to reclaim the Spark title.
Absolutely. And then there's Dizzy, proving that he can thrive as a singles competitor after Clark Thunder's betrayal. His match against Warren Winters was a real showcase of his strength and evolving skill set.
What stood out to me was how Dizzy adapted his style. He showcased new moves, like that incredible headbutt, and displayed resilience against Winters' power moves. He's clearly not just a high flyer anymore.
No.
Yeah.
It's like he's unlocked a new level of his potential. This win proves he's a force to be reckoned with in the singles division. I'm excited to see what he does next.
Me too. And speaking of exciting, how about that tag team title match? The Maniacs pulled off a huge upset against Absolution, and they did it with a new, more aggressive style.
Oh, wait, hold on. Before we get into that, I have to say, seeing Basket Case with that new look was intimidating.
Oh, yeah.
It was like he'd been completely transformed.
It definitely added to their intensity, but you're right. Their victory wasn't just about aggression. They were strategic, focusing on Brick's leg throughout the match, which ultimately led to that shocking torture rack submission.
That move came out of nowhere. I don't think anyone saw that coming. This is a huge win for the Maniacs, and it completely changes the landscape of the tag team division.
Absolutely. It makes you wonder, is this the start of a new era in SDW where we see more unexpected teams rising to the top?
I guess we'll have to wait and see. But for now, let's talk about the main event. CM Punk versus the Mega Bucks.
Yeah.
With all the tension between Punk and Tony Khan, this match had a lot riding on it.
And Khan didn't make things easy for Punk, booking him in a handicap match against one of the most dominant tag teams in SDW history.
Right.
And remember, Punk is still dealing with a separated shoulder, so he was at a clear disadvantage.
He was. But even with the injury, he fought valiantly, showcasing his technical prowess and his signature never-give-up attitude.
He did, but the Mega Bucks, with their experience and their teamwork, were just too much for him to overcome. They targeted his injured shoulder relentlessly, and despite Punk's resilience, they ultimately secured the victory.
This loss is a setback for Punk, but it also raises some questions. Is Tony Khan going to continue to use his authority to punish Punk? And how will Punk respond to this latest challenge?
These are questions that will keep fans speculating for weeks to come. But one thing is certain. The rivalry between Punk and Khan is far from over. It's a battle of wills, and it's going to have a lasting impact on SDW.
It's like a Shakespearean drama unfolding in the ring. But before we get too caught up in the main event, let's take a moment to acknowledge the incredible Women's World Championship match between Britt Baker and the reigning champion, Banshee.
This was a 23 falls match, and Banshee dominated from the start. Her signature Devil's Grip submission hold proved to be too much for Baker to handle, and she secured 2 decisive falls for the win.
Baker gave it her all, but Banshee's power and experience were on full display. It makes you wonder, is there anyone in the women's division who can dethrone her?
That's the big question. Banshee's reign of terror continues, and it's going to take a special kind of competitor to take her down.
So as you can see, this Friday Night Lightning was packed with action and drama. But we're just getting started. There's so much more to unpack. And we'll be diving even deeper into the implications of these matches and storylines in the next part of our deep dive.
We'll be analyzing the technical aspects of some key matches, discussing the evolving characters, and speculating on what the future holds for some of your favorite SDW superstars. So, stay tuned.
It's fascinating to see how much influence managers can have, in SDW. Like we were just talking about Cruz Diaz and his maneuvering with Russell in the cruiserweight division.
Right.
It really highlights how a skilled manager can completely change the trajectory of a wrestler's career.
Yeah, it's like they're the puppet masters behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah.
Pulling the strings and orchestrating these elaborate storylines. Diaz has managed to insert Russell into the title picture, despite him not fitting the typical cruiserweight mold. It makes you wonder, is this a sign that SDW is moving away from traditional weight classes and embracing a more diverse range of wrestling styles?
That's a great question. It's definitely a departure from the norm, and think about the impact this could have on the division. If Russell, with his power-based style, were to become champion, it would force other cruiserweights to adapt and evolve their own strategies.
It would be a game changer. And it wouldn't be the first time SDW has shaken things up. Remember when they introduced the Spark title?
Oh, yeah.
Creating a whole new division for women who didn't fit the mold of the traditional women's wrestling scene.
Absolutely. It was a bold move, and it paid off. It introduced fresh talent and expanded the opportunities for women in SDW. And speaking of the Spark title, Blue Monica's recent victory is another example of how SDW is embracing change. Her unique blend of power and agility makes her a formidable opponent, and her determination to reclaim that title is palpable.
Yeah, that near-robotic recovery into a drop kick during her qualifying match
Yeah.
was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It's like she's been reprogrammed for success.
Yeah, and you can't forget about that devastating Alabama slammer.
No.
She's clearly been honing her skills, and she's developing a more aggressive edge. It makes you wonder how the current Spark champion is going to prepare for this new, more intense version of Blue Monica.
It's going to be a must-see match at Deck the Halls.
Yeah.
And it's not just the women's division that's seeing these exciting transformations. Think about Dizzy.
Yeah.
After his tag team partner Clark Thunder turned on him,
Right.
he's had to reinvent himself as a singles competitor.
And he's done it with remarkable resilience. His match against Warren Winters was a masterclass in adaptation. He didn't just rely on his signature high-flying moves, he incorporated power moves, technical wrestling, and even surprised us with that impactful headbutt.
It's like a switch flipped. He unlocked a whole new level of intensity and determination.
Yeah.
Those back-to-back tiger bombs and neck breakers were a real statement. He's sending a message to the entire singles division. He's not afraid of anyone, and he's coming for gold.
It's a classic underdog story. And speaking of underdogs, who could have predicted that the Maniacs would dethrone Absolution for the tag team titles? That was a shock to everyone.
I know. And not only did they win, but they did it with a completely different style. Basket Case's new look was intimidating, but it was their strategic focus on Brick's leg that really impressed me. It showed a level of intelligence and planning that we haven't seen from them before.
And that unexpected torture rack submission.
I know.
It came out of nowhere. This wasn't just a victory, it was a statement. They have evolved as a team, and they are a force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely. It makes you wonder what's next for the tag team division. Will we see a new era of strategic, calculated wrestling, or will the more chaotic style prevail?
It's a fascinating question, and it speaks to the larger themes of change and evolution that we're seeing throughout SDW. Remember, this isn't just a wrestling promotion, it's a story. A constantly evolving narrative with characters and conflicts and consequences.
And just like any good story, it keeps us guessing. But while we're on the subject of unpredictability, we can't ignore the elephant in the room. The ongoing saga between CM Punk and Tony Khan.
This is a rivalry that is captivating the entire wrestling world. It's a clash of ideologies, a battle between the rebellious spirit of Punk and the corporate power of Khan.
And it's spilling over into the ring. Booking Punk in a handicap match against the Megabucks was a clear power move by Khan, and it put Punk in a very vulnerable position, especially with his injured shoulder.
The Megabucks are a formidable duo, and they exploited Punk's weakness, ultimately securing the victory. But this isn't just a physical battle, it's a psychological one. Khan is trying to break Punk's spirit, but I don't think it's going to work.
Punk is known for his resilience, his never-say-die attitude. This setback might actually fuel his fire, making him even more determined to expose Khan and fight for what he believes in.
It's a classic David and Goliath story, and it raises some important questions. How far is Khan willing to go to maintain control? And can Punk, despite the odds stacked against him, find a way to overcome this seemingly insurmountable obstacle?
These are questions that will keep fans on the edge of their seats, waiting to see what unfolds in the next chapter of this epic rivalry. And while the drama between Punk and Khan is certainly captivating, we can't overlook the incredible talent and athleticism on display in the women's division, particularly in the Women's World Championship match.
You're right. Britt Baker's pursuit of the championship has been inspiring, but she faced a formidable opponent in Banshee. Banshee's dominance was undeniable. Her brutal efficiency, particularly with her signature Devil's Grip submission hold, was simply too much for Baker to overcome.
Those two decisive falls were a statement. Banshee is at the top of her game, and it makes you wonder, is there anyone who can challenge her reign?
That's the question that has the entire women's division buzzing. And you know, it's interesting to see how Banshee's dominance is impacting the other wrestlers. Some are intimidated, some are inspired, but everyone is taking notice.
It's like she set a new standard, a new level of intensity that everyone else has to strive for.
And that's what makes SDW so compelling. It's a constantly evolving landscape with new challenges, new rivalries, and new champions emerging all the time.
It's like a living, breathing organism.
It is.
But speaking of evolution, let's circle back to one of the most unexpected developments of the night. the Maniacs' transformation into strategic masterminds.
Their victory over Absolution was a masterclass in planning and execution. It was a far cry from their usual chaotic, unpredictable style.
I remember when they first burst onto the scene. It was all about mayhem and destruction. But this match was different. They were focused, they were disciplined, and they had a clear game plan.
That focus on Brick's leg, culminating in that shocking torture rack submission, was brilliant. It makes you wonder what prompted this shift in their approach.
Maybe they realized that to reach the top, they needed to be more than just brawlers. They needed to be smarter, more strategic.
It's a fascinating evolution, and it raises the question, can they maintain this new level of focus and discipline, or will they revert to their old chaotic ways?
Only time will tell. But one thing is certain. They have proven that they're more than just a novelty act. They're legitimate contenders, and they're here to stay.
And that's what makes the tag team division so exciting right now. You have these established teams like Absolution who are known for their power and their experience. And then you have these up-and-coming teams like the Maniacs who are shaking things up with their unique blend of chaos and strategy.
It's a perfect mix of old and new, and it keeps us guessing who will come out on top. But it's not just about the matches themselves, it's about the stories behind them.
Exactly. SDW is a masterclass in storytelling, weaving together these intricate narratives that keep fans invested week after week. It's like a soap opera, but with body slams and suplexes.
And let's not forget about the production value. The lighting, the music, the camera angles, everything is designed to create an immersive, unforgettable experience.
It's true. SDW has raised the bar for professional wrestling, blending athleticism, entertainment, and storytelling in a way that's truly unique.
And it's not just about the spectacle. It's about the emotions. We laugh, we cry, we cheer, we boo, we feel it all.
It's that emotional connection that keeps us coming back for more. But when you really think about it, all of these storylines, all of these characters, all of this drama, it all boils down to one central theme: power.
Power. How so?
Think about it. Every match, every rivalry, every betrayal, it's all about who has the power and who's trying to take it. You have wrestlers like CM Punk who are fighting against the established power structure. You have managers like Cruz Diaz who are using their influence to manipulate the system. And you have champions like Banshee who are wielding their power with ruthless efficiency.
Wow, when you put it that way, it's like a microcosm of society played out in the squared circle.
Exactly. And it's that complexity, that depth, that makes SDW so much more than just a wrestling show. It's a reflection of ourselves, of our struggles, our triumphs, our desires.
It's a story that resonates with us on a fundamental level, and that's what makes it so powerful.
Absolutely. But speaking of power, we haven't even touched on the legal ramifications of Aaron A. Sweet's return and his accusations against Tony Khan.
Oh, right. With the NYSC getting involved, this could have serious consequences for SDW.
This is where things get really interesting. The NYSSC has the authority to regulate professional wrestling, and if they find that Khan has violated any rules or regulations, they could impose fines, sanctions, or even revoke his license.
This is uncharted territory for SDW. And with CM Punk caught in the middle of this legal battle, the stakes couldn't be higher.
It's a powder keg situation, and it's just another example of how SDW seamlessly blends real-world issues with their fictional narratives.
Yeah, it's that blurring of lines that keeps us on the edge of our seats. But before we get too caught up in the legal drama, let's shift gears and talk about one of the most exciting developments of the night: the emergence of new talent in the tag team division.
Absolutely. The Maniacs' victory over Absolution was a major upset, and it signals a potential shift in the balance of power. But they're not the only new team making waves.
You're right. There are several up-and-coming duos who are hungry for success and willing to challenge the established order. It's like a whole new generation of tag team wrestling is emerging right before our eyes.
And it's not just about raw talent, it's about innovation. We're seeing teams experimenting with new styles, new strategies, and new ways to tell stories in the ring.
It's like a renaissance of tag team wrestling.
It is.
And it's adding a whole new dimension to SDW.
It's making the tag team division one of the most unpredictable and exciting aspects of the show. You never know who's going to step up and make a statement.
It's a wild ride. But what really impressed me about this Friday Night Lightning event was the overall sense of purpose. It wasn't just a collection of random matches. It felt like every match, every segment, every promo was building towards something bigger.
I agree. There was a definite sense of direction, a clear narrative arc that kept the audience engaged from beginning to end.
It's like watching a well-crafted movie, where every scene, every line of dialogue, every character interaction contributes to the overall story.
And that's what separates SDW from other wrestling promotions. It's not just about the athleticism, it's about the artistry, the craftsmanship, the attention to detail.
It's about creating an experience that transcends the boundaries of traditional sports entertainment.
Exactly, and that's what keeps fans coming back for more. But speaking of coming back for more, we haven't even touched on the implications of Banshee's dominant victory over Britt Baker.
Oh, right. Her reign as Women's World Champion continues, and it's starting to feel like she's unstoppable.
Her brutal efficiency, particularly with her signature Devil's Grip submission hold,
Right.
is intimidating. It makes you wonder, is there anyone in the women's division who can challenge her reign?
That's a question that's on everyone's mind.
Mhm.
And with the next big event, Deck the Halls, just around the corner, the speculation is only going to intensify.
It's going to be fascinating to see who steps up and tries to dethrone the champion.
But you know, it's not just about winning or losing. It's about the journey, the struggle, the pursuit of excellence.
And that's what makes SDW so compelling. It's a celebration of the human spirit, of our capacity for resilience, determination, and triumph over adversity.
It's a story that we can all relate to, regardless of whether we're wrestling fans or not. But speaking of relatable stories, let's circle back to the Cruiserweight division and the ongoing saga of Russell and Clark Thunder.
Their rivalry is a classic tale of David and Goliath, with Russell's size and power contrasting sharply with Thunder's speed and agility.
And with Cruz Diaz pulling the strings behind the scenes, it's anyone's guess what will happen next.
The tension between them is palpable, and it feels like their story is far from over.
It's a reminder that in SDW, anything can happen. And that's what keeps us coming back for more.
Absolutely. But, when you really think about it, all of these storylines, all of these characters, all of this drama, it all boils down to one central question. What does it mean to be a champion?
That's a deep question.
It is, and it's a question that SDW explores week after week through the triumphs and failures of its diverse cast of characters.
It's a question that we all grapple with in our own lives. What are we willing to sacrifice to achieve our goals? What are our limits? And what does it truly mean to be successful?
These are questions that SDW doesn't shy away from. And it's that willingness to explore the complexities of the human experience that makes it such a compelling and thought-provoking form of entertainment.
It's not just about the wrestling. It's about the stories, the characters, the emotions. It's about life in all its messy, unpredictable glory.
And that's what makes SDW so special. It's a reflection of ourselves, of our hopes, our fears, our dreams.
It's a story that we can all connect with on a deep and meaningful level.
Absolutely. But speaking of connecting with the audience, let's talk about the incredible production value of SDW.
Oh yes, the lighting, the music, the camera angles, everything is so well executed. It's like watching a Hollywood blockbuster.
And the commentary. We have to give credit to the announcers for their insightful analysis and their ability to enhance the storytelling.
Yeah, they're like the narrators of this epic saga, guiding us through the twists and turns of the plot.
And they do it with such passion and enthusiasm. It's contagious.
It's true. Their energy adds another layer of excitement to the show.
But, it's not just about the production. It's about the fans.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The SDW universe is unlike any other fan base in the world.
They're so passionate, so dedicated, so invested in the storylines.
They're like an extension of the show itself.
Exactly. They cheer for their favorites, they boo the villains, they create signs, they wear costumes, they make their voices heard.
And SDW listens to them.
They do. They interact with the fans online, they incorporate fan feedback into their storylines, they create an environment where everyone feels like they're a part of something special.
It's a true community.
Yeah.
And that's what makes SDW so unique. It's not just a wrestling show. It's a cultural phenomenon.
It's a movement, and it's only getting bigger and better with each passing week.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what are some of your key takeaways?
Well, I think the main takeaway is that SDW is in a state of constant evolution. We're seeing new stars emerge, new rivalries develop, and new stories unfold.
And it's all happening against the backdrop of this larger narrative about power, control, and the pursuit of excellence.
It's a story that's as relevant today as it was 100 years ago, and it's a story that SDW tells with unparalleled passion, creativity, and attention to detail.
It's a story that keeps us on the edge of our seats, wondering what will happen next.
And that's the beauty of SDW. It's a never-ending saga full of twists, turns, and surprises.
So for our listeners who want to stay up to date on all the action, be sure to catch SDW Friday Night Lightning live every Friday night at 10 p.m. CST. on the Stone Dog Entertainment YouTube and Twitch channels.
And don't forget to check out our social media pages for exclusive content, behind-the-scenes insights, and interviews with your favorite SDW superstars.
But for now, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be diving even deeper into some of the technical aspects of the matches, analyzing the evolving characters, and speculating on what the future holds for some of your favorite SDW superstars.
All right, we're back and ready to continue our deep dive into SDW Friday Night Lightning. We've talked about the big storylines, the power dynamics, the shocking wins.
But now let's get into some of the nitty-gritty details that make SDW so fascinating.
Absolutely. One of the things I love about SDW is that they don't just focus on the big picture. They pay attention to the nuances, the subtle shifts in character,
Right.
the technical aspects of the matches. That's what sets them apart.
Totally. It's like they're building a world layer by layer.
Yeah.
And every detail matters. So where do you want to start?
Well, let's go back to that Women's World Championship match
Okay.
between Banshee and Britt Baker.
Okay.
You mentioned Banshee's dominance, particularly with her signature Devil's Grip submission hold. But I think it's worth taking a closer look at how she used that move to control the pace and psychology of the match.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Break it down for me.
So in the first fall, Banshee went for the Devil's Grip early, almost as a way of establishing her dominance, Baker was able to escape, but you could see the doubt creeping into her eyes. It was like Banshee had planted a seed of fear.
That's a good point. It's not just about the physical pain. It's about the mental game as well.
Exactly. And then in the second fall, Banshee used a completely different strategy. She wore Baker down with a series of power moves, targeting her lower back, weakening her for the eventual submission.
It was like she was playing chess,
Yeah.
setting Baker up for the checkmate. And that final Devil's Grip was just brutal. Baker had no fight left in her.
It was a masterclass in ring psychology and strategic execution, and it's a testament to Banshee's evolution as a wrestler. She's not just relying on brute force anymore. She's thinking, she's planning, she's outsmarting her opponents.
It's like she's unlocked a new level of her potential. And it makes her reign as champion all the more intimidating.
Absolutely. But one of the things that makes SDW so unpredictable is that even in defeat, a wrestler can grow and evolve.
Right.
Britt Baker might have lost this match, but she showed incredible resilience and heart.
Totally. She never gave up, even when the odds were stacked against her. And that's the kind of spirit that makes a wrestler a fan favorite.
It is. And it makes me wonder, how will this loss affect Baker's character arc? Will she come back stronger, more determined to overcome Banshee's dominance? Or will this defeat shake her confidence?
It's a question that's going to keep fans speculating for weeks to come. And that's the beauty of SDW. They give you just enough information to keep you guessing, to keep you invested in the stories.
Exactly. And speaking of stories, let's talk about Dizzy's transformation into a singles competitor.
Okay.
His match against Warren Winters was a real highlight of the night.
Oh, it was. And I have to admit, I was a little worried about him after Clark Thunder's betrayal.
Oh, yeah.
They were such a strong tag team.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if Dizzy could make it on his own.
I understand your concern, but I think Dizzy proved that he's more than capable of holding his own in the singles division. His match against Winters was a showcase of his athleticism, his technical skills, and his newfound aggression.
That headbutt to Winters was a thing of beauty. It was like he was channeling all of his frustration, all of his anger into that one move.
And it was effective. It shifted the momentum of the match in Dizzy's favor. And then those back-to-back tiger bombs and neck breakers were just brutal.
Brutal. It was like he was unleashing a fury we've never seen from him before. And I think that's what makes Dizzy's story so compelling. He's not just a high flyer anymore. He's a force to be reckoned with.
And he's not afraid to get down and dirty. He's willing to fight fire with fire, which makes him a real threat in the singles division.
Absolutely. And I think his victory over Winters is just the beginning. He's got a bright future ahead of him.
I agree. But speaking of bright futures, let's talk about the Maniacs.
Yeah.
Their upset victory over Absolution was one of the most shocking moments of the night.
It was. And when I first saw Basket Case with that new look, I knew something was different.
Oh, yeah.
He was like a man possessed.
It definitely added to their intensity. But it wasn't just about the look. Their entire approach to the match was different. They were more focused, more strategic.
Totally. Remember how they used to just rely on chaos and mayhem? This time, they had a plan. They targeted Brick's leg, weakening him for that final submission.
That torture rack submission came out of nowhere. I'd never seen them use that move before. It was a brilliant strategic move.
It was. And it makes me wonder, who's behind this transformation? Did they hire a new manager? Did they study tapes of other tag teams?
It's a mystery. But whatever the reason, they have clearly evolved as a team, and that's what makes them so dangerous. They're unpredictable, they're skilled, and they're hungry for success.
They're a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see who they face next. The tag team division is wide open now, and it's going to be a wild ride to the top.
Absolutely. And one of the things that makes SDW so special is that they're not afraid to take risks. They're constantly pushing the boundaries, experimenting with new ideas, and giving new talent a chance to shine.
Totally. It's like they're always looking for the next big thing, the next breakout star, and that's what keeps the show fresh and exciting.
It does. It creates a sense of anticipation, a feeling that anything can happen. And that's what makes SDW so addictive.
It's true. You never know what's going to happen next. Who's going to rise to the top? Who's going to fall? It's a roller coaster ride of emotions.
And it's a ride that we're all happy to be on. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some final thoughts you'd like to leave our listener with?
Well, I think the main takeaway is that SDW is more than just a wrestling show. It's a story, a community, an experience.
It's a world that we can escape to, a place where good versus evil is played out in the most dramatic and entertaining way possible.
It's a place where dreams are made and broken, where heroes rise and villains fall.
And it's a place where we can all come together and celebrate the raw power and beauty of professional wrestling.
Beautifully said. So for our listener out there, keep those deep dive helmets polished. We'll be back soon with another SDW event, ready to break down all the action and uncover the hidden layers of this amazing world.
Until next time, remember, in SDW, anything is possible.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's SDW podcast. Big thanks to Greg and Sandy for another epic deep dive into all the action and drama that makes Stone Dog Wrestling the best wrestling show out there. Don't forget to catch us live every Friday night at 10 p.m. Central Standard Time on the Stone Dog Entertainment YouTube and Twitch channels. Subscribe, turn on reminders, and join the community for all the action and surprises you won't see anywhere else. And hey, if you enjoyed this week's podcast, be sure to like, comment, and share it with your fellow wrestling fans. We'll be back next week with more coverage, more chaos, and everything SDW. Until then, I'm Carly Cross, signing off. See you at the next show.